Chapter 10, 28, Clunky Park Road, Singapore. Kitty was floating on an inflatable lounger in the middle of her pool in an alluring one-shoulder cut-out Arax swimsuit when she heard the car returning to the house. She had been waiting impatiently for the past hour after sending her maid to the bookstore to buy a whole stack of the new issue of Tattle, which had just been released this morning. Kitty paddled her lounger over to the edge of the pool as the maid came rushing down the stone steps with a stack of magazines in her arms, followed by the driver, who was also carrying a big stack. "What took you so long?" Kitty asked. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We got there before the bookstore opened, but they had to unpack the magazines from the boxes and scan them into the computer first. But here we bought all 40 copies," she said, handing Kitty the top copy from her stack. It was wrapped in plastic with a big gold panel over the cover and words that screamed, "Our wildest issue ever." Kitty felt her heart race as she tried to tear into the plastic, desperate to get into the magazine. She couldn't wait to see her photo on the cover under the headline Princess Kitty. The lounger wobbled and her wet fingers kept slipping against the plastic. "Here, let me help you," the maid said. Sensing her mistress' excitement, she ripped through the plastic, slipping the glossy magazine out of its sleeve and handed it to Kitty. Kitty stared at the cover. Her face changed from anticipation to absolute horror. Staring behind the cover of Tattle was a photograph of Colette and her husband, Lucien, seated at a breakfast table with a huge orangutan. What is this? This is the wrong issue," Kitty screamed from her reclined position. "No, ma'am, this is the new issue, brand new. I saw them take it out of the boxes." Kitty scrutinized the cover, with the headline read, "Lords of the Jungle, the Earl and Countess of Palliser." No, this can't be real." Kitty sat up on the lounger, tearing through the magazine maniacally and getting the pages wet as she searched for her story. What happened to a beautiful photo shoot with Nigel Barker? The photo of Harvard kissing her. This was nowhere to be found. Instead, the feature article was a 10-page spread dedicated to pictures of Colette and Lucien's visit to a conservation centre in Indonesia. There were photos of Colette hosting a tea party for a family of orangutans at a wrought iron table by the edge of a river. Colette trekking through the rainforest with a group of primatologists, and Colette cradling a baby orangutan. By this point, Kitty's lounger had drifted to the middle of the pool, and she screamed at the maid, "Get me my phone." Kitty jabbed at her phone, angrily calling Olivier Sen. He rang a few times before I picked up. "Ollie's psychic hotline," he answered jokingly. "Have you seen the latest Tattle yet?" Kitty said, her voice shaking with fury. "No, did it come today? I'm in Hong Kong this week, so I haven't seen it." "Congratulations, how does it look?" "Congratulations, go look at the magazine and tell me how I fucking look at the cover," Kitty screamed before hanging up. God, what now? Oliver thought to himself. Did they end up going with a photo that was slightly less flattering to her surgically sculptured nose? There was no way she could find a copy of the magazine in Hong Kong. There was no way he could find a copy of the magazine in Hong Kong, but maybe the issue was already online. He went to his browser and logged onto the tattle.com.sg. Within seconds, the page loaded and the cover of Tattle popped up. For fuck's sake, Oliver cursed as he began to scan through the story. Eco Warrior Princess, an exclusive interview with Colette, the Countess of Palliser. The Countess of Palliser entered the garden of the British Embassy in Singapore with no pomp or circumstance, no personal assistant or PR hand in sight. She shakes my hand and immediately starts fretting that I'm seated in the sun. Am I too hot? Would I like the swamp seats? Has no one put me a drink? This was not the woman I was expected to meet. The former Colette, being once China's most influential fashion blogger with over 55 million followers, is today sitting before me in a simple yet lovely floral dress with not a dab of makeup on her face or any jewelry except for a simple wedding band of Welsh gold. I asked her who designed her dress, and she laughed. "This is Laura Ashley dress that I got out of a bin at Oxfam thrift shop in the village near where I live." It's the first hint that as ordinary as the countess's life seemed to be, things are not all that ordinary. The village she is referring to is Barchester, perhaps one of the most charming in all of England, and home for the Countess and husband, Lucien Montague Scott. The Earl of Palliser is a charming old vicarage with 10 bedrooms tucked away at Guthrum Castle, the 35,000-acre Barsetshire estate of the father-in-law, the Duke of Glenorchy. I've heard rumours that the interior designer Henrietta Spencer Churchill of the Blenheim Palace, Spencer Churchill, has been busy transforming the cottage into an Elysian paradise, but when I try to ask the Countess about it, she simply says that the house is being refurbished and redirects me to the matter at hand. My life is not that interesting. Let's talk about Indonesia, she says with an effervescent smile. Indonesia is the reason the Earl and Countess have been spending so much time in these parts of late. The Earl, a renowned environmental activist, and the Countess actually met there. I was a bit adrift travelling to various spas on my own for a few months, the Countess admits. By chance, I met Lucian in Bali, and he told me that he was on his way to a remote part of North Sumatra. I decided on a whim to follow him. It was a decision that changed her life forever. Lucian brought me to Angara Orangutan Rescue Centre, and it was my first exposure to the terrible environmental tragedies that's been unfolding here. Sumatran orangutans are classified as critically endangered, and the population is being decimated along with scores of other species because of deforestation and illegal poaching. Infant orangutans are being sold to the pet trade, and the way they do this by killing the mother first. For every baby orangutan sold, it is estimated that 6 to 8 adult orangutans die in the process of capturing them. Can you imagine? The Countess said, her normally pearl white complexion flushed with fury while she witnessed those first few weeks in Sumatra, given the Countess a similar mission in life to spread awareness of this environmental tragedy and to advocate for change. People talk about the Amazon, but it's horrific what's been done in this part of Southeast Asia. The main culprit is the palm oil industry. Everyone should stop consuming products that contain palm oil. In the quest for more land to create more palm oil plantations, ancient forests are being burned down, destroyed completely, and we are losing so much species that will never be seen again. Orangutans, one of our planet's most precious animals, could be extinct in the wild within 25 years, the Countess said with tears in eyes. And beyond this, look at what the massive bushfire and deforestation have done environmentally to the region. Look what it's doing to the air quality right here in Singapore. You can feel the effects of these forest fires right now if you just take a deep breath. At this point in the interview, the Countess' husband walks out onto the terrace to join us. He's a tall, blindingly handsome blonde fellow who immediately reminds me of Wesley from The Princess Bride. I'm surprised by how down to earth the Earl is, and when he talks about his new wife, his face lights up like a love-struck teen. Colette's dedication to the orangutan babies, how she handled them, how she wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty and really just give her all to the cause, really surprised me. It 100% made me fall in love with her. I knew I had found my eco-warrior princess, and after our time together at camp, I never wanted to let her go. Our mission is just beginning. There's just so much to do, and that's why we decided to move to Singapore for the next few years. The Countess revealed this will be an excellent base for our work all over the region, the Earl chimed in. Are the Earl and Countess going to commandeer one of Singapore's tiniest properties? I don't know if we'll actually be here all that much, so I think we'll just lease a little flat someplace very central, the Countess said, in case you are misled into thinking that the palaces have completely hidden away their ermine robes and tiaras in favour of cargo pants and tivas. Colette reveals that she is in the midst of organising an event that will no doubt and every reader of this article scramble for their best jewels. I'm going to host a fundraising ball in aid of orangutan rescue, and with my friend the Duchess of Oxbridge and Cornelia Guest. Both of them are dedicated conservationists doing such amazing rescue work with animals. Alice with endangered sea turtles and Cornelia with miniature horses. Hopefully we'll have friends from all over the world jetting in for a ball that will be inspired by Marie Helen de Rothschild Legion Prowse Ball at Chateau Ferries. If history is to be repeated again, the Enchanted Evening promises to be the most highly anticipated gala of the spring charity season, and hopefully it's the start of many good things to come from this gorgeous, aristocratic and conscious people. When we are done reading, Oliver immediately called Violet Poon a tattle. Can you please explain why there's a fucking monkey on the cover of your magazine this month instead of Kitty Bean? Oh, Oliver, I was going to call you. It was a last-minute mandate that came from my boss. They're running this cover story on every edition of Tattle around the world in this world this month. It's such an important story. So what happens to the Kitty's important story? Well, since Colette was on the cover this month, we felt like a little diplomacy was in order. Of course, we couldn't put Kitty's story in the same issue. I mean, this is her stepmother. We wouldn't want to offend either of them, but you know, I adore Kitty's cover. Those Nigel pics are just beyond. We're going to save it for later in the year. It will actually be much better in the fall, don't you think? Wouldn't it be a fabulous cover for the September issue? Oliver went silent for a moment, trying to figure out how he was going to explain all this to Kitty. I hope Kitty won't be upset about this. We will give her the star treatment, I promise. We'll throw a cover launch party at some boutique. Upset, well, I don't think you have any clue what you've done. You've just started World War III. Oh dear. I have to go. I need to see if I can disarm the nuclear warhead now. Oliver hung up with Violet, took a deep breath, and called Kitty's number. He found her eerily composed when he explained the whole situation to her. I actually think this is going to be much better for you, Kitty. Landing a full cover is more prestigious. Think of the September issue of Vogue. That's always the biggest issue of the year. You'll get so much more exposure. Far less people will see the March issue of Tattle. And to be honest, it's glassy cover. Look at the mother, her orangutan, and her saggy brown nipples. Did you read the article? Kitty said quietly. I did. So you know that Colette's moved to Singapore with her husband, the royal couple. Kitty, they aren't royal. Oh yeah? So tell me why they're getting the royal treatment at your great-aunt's funeral. Don't try to deny it. I saw the pictures of Colette with the Dowager Sultana of Periwick at the official royal on Instagram. You lied to me. You promised me she wouldn't be there. Kid, I had no clue that her husband's family knew my great-uncle Alfred's family. This isn't some conspiracy. It's not. Then why does it feel like she's doing everything she can to outshine me? She gets invited to the funeral of the century. She steals my Tattle cover. And now she's throwing this big charity ball in Singapore to raise money for her damn monkeys. Those orangutans need all the help they can get, Kitty. That's not the point. Colette is hosting this huge ball so that all of Singapore society can come and curtsy at her feet. She's like the queen of fucking Sheba. You know she's doing all this as a revenge, don't you? She's just trying to insult me over and over again. Oliver sighed in exasperation. Kitty, don't you think you're blowing this out of proportion? You haven't even met Colette. You have no idea what's going through her mind. I really don't think this girl has any interest in insulting you. Of course she's insulting me, and she's insulted my husband. Did you notice that she didn't mention Jack once? Who do you think is funding all her monkey business? Kitty, you're just building all this up in your head and sending yourself into a tailspin. No, I'm sending you into a tailspin. I want you to get me a title. I want a proper royal title that's higher ranking than Colette's. All of a sudden, Kitty's getting you any sort of title is going to take time. Living in Singapore, you could aim for an honorific from one of the Malay royal families, but you have to do it in an obscene amount of sucking up. Best scene scenario, if you play your cards right, you might be able to receive a title within a few years. No, I'm not waiting that long. I don't care what you have to do. How much you have to spend. I want a title. I want it before Colette stupid monkey's ball. That's just not realistic, Kitty. I mean, I do know a few bisexual Italian princes that might be willing in exchange for certain financial incentives to marry you, but you'll have to divorce Jack. Kitty scoffed. What are you talking about? I'm not divorcing my husband. Then I'm afraid there's really no way to get you a royal trial within a month. Well then you're out of a job. I'm not going to pay your retainer anymore. In fact, I'm stopping payment on everything right now. The Nigel Barker photos, shoot fees, all the money you spent decorating my house, everything. Kitty, stop being unreasonable. That's close to $100 million. You know I'll be on the hook for all those bills if you don't pay them. Oliver sputtered in alarm. Ex-successor, get me that title. What's higher ranking than a countess? A duchess, a princess, an empress? I don't care if you need to bribe Princess Bim Bab of Korea. I just want Colette to have to curtsy to me the next time I encounter her. I want to wipe the floor with her face, Kitty screamed. Kitty, please calm down, Kitty. Oliver realized she had hung up on him. A wave of fear suddenly passed through his body. Kitty was the one client he could not risk losing. His monthly retainer from her was the one thing that kept the wolves at bay. Unbeknownst to the Youngs, the Shangs, or the rest of the world, Oliver's family had fallen hard times ever since Barings went bust in '95. Most of the Shin portfolio had been invested with the storied investment firm in London that were bankers in Britain's most aristocratic families, including the Queen. But after the firm went bankrupt, ironically due to rogue traders based in Singapore, the Seans, along with every other Barong investor, had been wiped out. What remained in the other Seans accounts was a pittance, about 10 million, and all that went into maintaining the grandmother's Rosemary's lifestyle. It was her money rightfully, and she was tired to live out her last years in comfort, but it meant that there would be barely anything left for her 5 children. The Seans had been one of Singapore's largest landowners in the 1900s, but there were only one property left now, his grandmother's sprawling bungalow on Dalway Road that was maybe worth for 35 million. 40 of the market ever recovered. Split 5 ways between her children. That meant her father would only inherit 6 or 7 million at the most if the house was ever sold. Far less than what the parents were now in debt for. For years they had taken out loan after loan, and Oliver had spent his youth living the life of a rich man's son, sent abroad to the best schools money could buy, from La Rosa to Oxford. But after the Bearings crash, he found himself in the unthinkable position of having to work for a living. Oliver had always existed among the world's 0.1% crowd, and very few people understood the special hell of having to live in a world where every single person around you was staggeringly rich, but you were not. No one knew of the degree of subterfuge he took to keep up appearance for the sake of his family and career. There was the ballooning interest payments on all their bank loans. There was There were 10 credit cards that he had to pay Russian roulette with month after month. There were the mortgages on his parents' Butong in Beijing, his flat in London, and the condo in Singapore. Last year had been the worst, when his mother had been forced to sell off the legendary CNJ brooch along with other family heirloom in order to pay for the unexpected medical expenses. The bills kept coming, they were endless, and now Kitty was starting to renege on her Ganchian decorating bills he had signed off on. If he couldn't work a miracle and get Kitty her title, he knew his whole life, his family, his career, his reputation all would come crashing down. Chapter 11. Tysful Park, Singapore. Walking in to lunch the next day, Nick and Rachel found that the dining room had been transformed into a makeshift situation room. Rolling bulletin boards had been placed around the room, and the dining table was lined with stacks of documents and various brochures, and 7 or 8 young staffers huddled over spreadsheets on their laptops. Aileen entered with another package that had just arrived and noticed the baffled couple. "Oh, Nicky, lunch is being served on the terrace today." Who are these people?" Nick whispered. "They're from Uncle Harry's office. They're helping out with all the house office," Aileen responded, giving Nick a look that clearly registered her disapproval. Nick and Rachel were on the terrace to find a much smaller gathering of relatives. The Karas had been flown to Bangkok earlier in the morning, while most of the Changs had left the day before. The only out-of-town guests that remained were Alex and Alistair, since they were both shareholders in the property. While Nick and Rachel stood by the buffet table arrayed with different dishes, Victoria spoke up as she looked over a prospectus. "This offer from the Far East people is an insult. 2.5 billion paid out over 5 years. Do they think we fell off the turnip truck yesterday? Let's not even bother responding," Alex declared. She looked up as Nick and Rachel sat down at the wrought iron table with their lunch plates. "Nicky, do you have any idea what time your father will be here? We have so much to go over with him." "Dad's back in Sydney." "What? When did he leave? Last night? Didn't he tell you he was heading home?" "Yes, but we assumed that he would have changed his plan now that the office flooding that irresponsible boy. We're in the midst of a bidding war, and he knows he can't make any music. He knows we can't make any music without him." Felicity huffed. "Dad's being quite set in his ways, and he really misses the coffee from his cafe he goes to every morning in Rose Bay." Nick tried explaining. "There are billions of dollars at stake here, and he's complaining about the coffee as if vulgar crystal here aren't good enough for him." Victoria scoffed. Rachel jumped into the conversation. "Some people really can't function without their coffee. In New York, I have to grab my usual cup at Joe Coffee on the way to work, or I won't be able to get through the morning." "I'll never understand you coffee people," Victoria tutted as she carefully stirred the cup of tea made from GFBOP's orthodox leaves she had flown in every month from a special reserve estate in Tanzania. "Call your father, tell him we're in the middle of a heated bidding war and the house could be sold before the end of the week," Felicity ordered. Nick looked at his aunt in surprise. "Are you all really intending on selling Tysful Park that quickly? We need to close the deal while the work is sizzling. It's almost Chinese New Year, and everyone is feeling particularly prosperous and bold right now. Do you know what our top bid now exceeds? 3 billion, Alex excitedly reported. Nick raised his eyebrow. "Who is it from, and how will they ensure they will be preserve the house?" Felicity laughed. "Come on, Nicky, no one is going to preserve this house. The developers are only interested in land. They are going to tear it all down." Nick looked at Felicity in horror. "Wait a minute. How can they tear down the house? Isn't this a protected heritage property?" Victoria shook her head. "If this was a Pernican-style house or a colonial black and white, maybe it would have heritage protection, but this house is just a mishmash of style. It was built by some Dutch architect that the Sultan who originally owned the place bought it from Malaysia. It's an architectural folly, but of course this is also what makes it so valuable. This is a freehold hold property with absolutely no heritage or zoning regulation. It's every developer's dream. Here, look at the leading proposal, Alex said, handing Nick a glossy brochure. 9 Estates, a luxury Christian community. Imagine an exclusive gated community for high net worth families who share in the blessings of the Holy Spirit. 99 splendid villas inspired by the hanging gardens of Babylon, ranging from 5,000 to 15,000 square feet of half-acre lots will surround Galilee, a glorious artificial lagoon, complete with the world's tallest man-made waterfall, supplied only with water imported from the River Jordan. At the heart of the community lies the 12 Apostles, a unique 12-hole golf course designed by our faithful brothers Tiger Woods, and an exquisite clubhouse, the King David, which will boast a trinity of world-class restaurant operated by Michelin star chef, along with Jericho, sure to become Singapore's most decadent spa and state-of-the-art health club. Come to Lion, live by them, and be saved. Nick looked up at the brochure in disbelief. Are you seriously telling me that these people are the front runners, a luxury Christian community? Isn't it inspired? It's Rosalind Fung's company. Your mother goes to a Christian fellowship banquets at the Fullerton. They offered us $3.3 billion, and they will throw in a villa for each of us, Victoria said breathlessly. Nick was barely able to hide his disgust. Aunt Victoria, in case you have forgotten, Jesus served the poor. Of course he did. What's your point? Bill is a charm. Jesus said to grow rich is glorious. Actually, Deng Xiaoping, the late communist leader of China, said that. Nick shot back. He got up from the table abruptly and said to Rachel, let's get out of here. As they got into Nick's father's vintage Jaguar XKE convertible and sped down the driveway, Nick turned to Rachel. Sorry, I lost my appetite sitting there with my aunts. I just couldn't listen to them 1 minute longer. Trust me, I get it. Where are we going? I thought I'd take you to my favorite restaurant for a proper lunch. Sun Yik Noodles. It's a little cafe that's been around since the 1930s. Fantastic, I just started to get hungry. Within 15 minutes, they arrived in the Chinatown neighborhood, and after parking the car, they strolled down Club Street with its picturesque old shop house towards Anzang Road as Nick began to feel Rachel in on the place. It's a total hole in the wall, and they haven't even changed the floor mica table since the 50s, I bet. But they have the best noodles in Singapore, and so everyone comes here. The former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court used to eat lunch here every day because the noodles were so addictive. You're gonna die when you taste these noodles. They are hand-pulled egg noodles, and they have this incredible perfect chili check section, and they serve it with braised chicken that's been simmering for hours in the garlicky gravy. The gravy. I want to see if you think you can possibly replicate it. We're here after lunch rush, so we probably won't have to wait too long for a Nick stopped dead in his tracks, staring at his facade across the road that had been covered by metal construction fence. What's wrong? This is it, Sun Yik Noodle. But where is it? They crossed the street and came to a small sign that glued to the metal sheet. It read, Tory Birch opening summer 2015. Nick ran in the shop next door, and Rachel could see him gesturing frantically to the baffled salesman inside. A few moments later, he came outside. His face registered nothing but shock. It's gone, Rachel. No more Sun Yik. This area has been so trendy. The original owner's son apparently sold the building for an insane amount of money and decided to retire. Now he's going to be a friggin' Tory Birch boutique. I'm so sorry, Nick. What the fuck? Nick yelled, kicking the metal sheeting angrily. He sank down into the pavement and covered his face with his head despondently. Rachel had never seen him look quite so upset before. She sat down next to him on the pavement and put her arms around his shoulder. Nick sat there for a few minutes, staring off into space. After a while, he finally spoke. Everything I love about Singapore's gone, or it's disappearing fast. Every time I come back, more and more of my favourite haunts have closed or been torn down. Restaurant shops, buildings, cemeteries, nothing is sacred anymore. The whole character of the island I knew growing up is almost completely obliterated. Rachel simply nodded. Sun Yik was such an institution. I thought it would always be safe. I swear to God, they had the best noodles in the whole world. Everyone loved it. But now it's gone forever. I could never get that back. I don't think people ever realise what they've lost until it's too late, Rachel said. Nick looked into his eyes with a sudden intensity. Rachel, I have to go. So touched with her. I can't let it be torn down and turned into some grotesque gated communion that only allows in millionaire Christians. I've been thinking the same thing. I thought for a while that I would be okay with everything. I thought I wouldn't care if I didn't inherit the estate as long as someone in the family got it and maintained it properly. But now I know I'm not. No, I've been wondering how long if you were really okay with using the house. Rachel observed. Nick considered what she said for a moment. I think part of me was always resented Castle Park in a subconscious way because everyone always associated me with the house and I could never detach from it when I was younger. I think that's why Colin and I became such good friends. I was always the Castle Park boy and he was always that cute enterprise boy. But we were just boys. It was like a curse in a way, wasn't it? It's amazing how you both managed not to let it define you, Rachel remarked. Well, at some point I made my peace with it. And getting away also helped me appreciate in a new light. I realised how much the place nurtured me, how I found my adventure side climbing trees and building forts, and how spending all those hours in the library reading all my grandfather's old books, Winston Churchill's memoirs, Sonia Sen's letters, got me fascinated with history. But now it feels like I'm seeing my entire childhood sort of to the high speeder. I know, Nick, it's been so painful for me to watch on the sunrise. I just can't believe how it's happening so quick and how your aunts, who also grew up in the house, don't seem to care about letting it go. Even though my grandmother's will clearly states what it does, I don't think she would have wanted Tysell Park to be demolished and forgotten like this. To me, there's so many things that just don't add up with my grandmother's will and everything. They've been so suspicious all along too, but I didn't feel like it was my place to say anything, Rachel said with a frown. I wish I had more time to dig deeper and find out why my grandma wanted the house sold off like this, but things are moving so fast with my aunties. Wait a minute, your aunties can move fast as they want, but you heard them yourself. Nothing's going to happen without your father. And as far as I know, he's somewhere in Sydney sipping well-made cappuccino. And how about Alistair? He's got a stake in all this too. Come to think of it, Alistair hasn't been around the house much over the past few days, has he? Nick said. It's your father, Alistair, and you join. If your father, Alistair, and you join forces, three, you have enough votes to block any sale. Nick kissed Rachel excitedly and led up for Parliament. You're brilliant, you know that. I'm not sure that required much brilliance. No, you're a genius. You just gave me the best idea. Let's all call my dad. Thanks for listening.